Yeah, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Helena Lidelöw. She's a CTO for Volumetric Building Companies and is a world-renowned expert on industrialized building. I consider myself fortunate to have made the introduction to Helena on a study trip to Sweden in 2016. Matthew and I went to Luleå Technical University in the far north of Sweden, where she held a professorship there. And in parallel, she was also the platform manager and director of R&D at Lindbäcks, one of the most advanced industrialized house building companies that we had visited to that point. In 2017, Helena arranged a visit for us into the Lindbäcks factory. And it was there that we, with our industry partners, were able to see really advanced lean production methodologies being implemented, something that was unusual, I think, for construction practice, and it still remains a high water benchmark for what we have seen and studied. Helena has since moved from Sweden to the west coast of the USA, taking up her role as CTO at Volumetric Building Companies at the start of 2022. And today, Helena will present an expose on how industrialization and platform concepts transcend national boundaries. This is something that's really passionate, or very close to my heart, and that I'm passionate about. And I welcome Helena to give her presentation. Over to you.
Thank you, Francis. That's lovely to hear. Happy to be joining you from across the Pacific, and I'm sorry I can't be with you, but I hope that I'm able to bring to you the message that I want to convey anyhow. Yes, I am the Chief Technical Officer at Volumetric Building Companies. We're a multi-family modular provider that operates across the US, but also in Europe. So today I'm here in California, and tomorrow I will travel to Poland to work with the team that we have in Poland. So next slide, please. So Sweden is my origin, and we're the foremost country in Europe when it comes to innovation. I learned the other week that actually when I visited the Swedish embassy that we are also among the top 3 investors in the US. So our companies really want to export and also work on other continents. So maybe that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, but there seems to be a culture for our small place on planet Earth that we are outgoing. And you probably recognize some of these names here. Volvo comes from us. IKEA is another one, big one that I know that you have around you. And all of these kind of share the common notion that these are products made for the great many. They have a minimalistic design, and actually they're very producer friendly. So manufacturing is at the core of the design concepts, which I will also show you during this expose. So next slide, please. So then I made a comparison for my US colleagues to understand what happens in the US versus Sweden. So US was actually the inventor of dimensional lumber and machine-made nails, and also built the first balloon frame in 1833. So we, the Swedes, actually went over to the US because we had a really hard time with famine at the end of the 1800s. So we had 1/3 of our population migrating over to the US, learned about all the fancy stuff that happened there, brought it home. In the 1920s, we had the first house factories built. We had cookie cutter designs distributed. And then in the meantime, US then invented the first modular home ever built just before the big recession in the 1930s. But we picked up on that idea from Sweden too, and used modular and panel factories to solve our housing crisis in the 60s then. And that was post World War II, where most of Europe was in shatters and really needed a kind of large scale operation to solve the crisis. And both the US and Sweden had similar programs going. So in the US, we had something called Operation Breakthrough, which resulted mostly in a lot of prototypes, but didn't have really a long-lasting effect on the industry. And right now, we're somewhere between 3 and 5% penetration for modular building technologies, including panelized and three-dimensional volumetric elements. Then on the Swedish side, the Million Homes program that took place during the 60s and 70s resulted in an industry with more than 70 factories, which is quite a lot if you consider we're only 10 million people. Those were mechanized and automated, and the penetration in the multifamily space is now up to 45%. And that's something that builds the culture, of course. So we now endeavored into the question: can this culture and knowledge maybe be transferred to other areas in the world? Yeah. So let's see. Next one, please. So I belong to the second generation of industrialized builders, and the ones that are the kids of the ones who built our society in the 60s and 70s. I'm a structural engineer. I can do all sorts of FP analysis and software programming if you push me, but I won't now, because now I'm managing the technology and the process development here at VBC. The next one, please. And I participated in this program, and I bring this up because it turns out to be formative. We had a industry academia cooperation program that carried on during a number of years. And this formed a really nice network. So you can take the next one, please. And today I have these people in my network. These are lean excellence consultants. They are CEOs and CTOs in other companies. They are co-founders of different types of industrialized construction endeavors. They are PhD and professors and senior researchers. This is a very strong network that can solve a lot of problems in this space. And the key concepts that you see here on the left side are items that we studied for a number of years and have continued working on when we have been either venturing out into industry or stayed in academia. And we had a follow-up meeting in August of this year where we reconnected after 10 years and pondered about what has happened during the 10 years. And of course, more research was needed. That's always the conclusion from academia. Next one, please. So what kind of production here is it that we're looking at? Click, please. Never to forget that standardization is not always the answer to this question. You can also have a lot of variation and still use the platform approach. And that's actually where I've been working all my life. So I like cookie cutter designs because they're so easy to manufacture and you can reach a really low price point. Which is the bottom tier here. But you can also infuse these types of ideas in more variation settings and have a lot of flexibility in an industrialized setup. Next, please. And platform is not only a technology, it's also the process knowledge and the relations that build up the platform. And that's why I'm in charge of not only the technology development, but also the process improvement that we are doing here at VBC. Next, please. And then what you, if you're successful doing this implementation, your pre-definition will affect all the parts of your business model. It takes place in contract signing. It takes place in design. It takes place in planning and when you're purchasing and when you're having your relations. You try to standardize and make templates for all of these different parts of your operations to speed things up, but also to increase precision in what you're doing. Next, please. So how can this work in reality? Next. This is where I learned most of what I'm talking about now. I was part of the team that started the Lindbäcks super factory that I believe Duncan said he visited. And we did this in 3 years. And it was built on the production principles of a one-piece flow. So you can kind of see that here on the picture. On your far left are the modules, and the next one over is the material feed where you prep your kits. And then the large open aisle is for transportation and taking out the waste. And then on your right, you will have production of the panels to bring the modules together. So this is a setup. If you visit an automotive factory, for example, this is exactly what it would look like at that. Next page. And we moved that needle towards manufacturing, and you can see some of the kitting and pre-assemblies we were entertaining here on the left. And it became a process where we actually could move 2 factories ahead at the same time. Next, please. And we also invented a few items or kits that weren't really made by us. So we had to create a whole factory to make our bathrooms, because there was just no way that our assembly line would be able to keep up with the speed that we needed. So this needed to be taken offline. And our entire factory was driven by the idea that we should have one module passing through the door every 30 minutes. And for that time, you can just do the bathrooms. This is what we use, the materials, machines, methods, and manpower. That's the only analysis tool we used for all of these 3 years. It's the only 4, so it's very, very easy to remember. Next, please. And our results, at our height, we produced a 37-minute pack time, so we didn't really reach our target, but we were pretty close. We were nominating to lean prices, and we got a lot of visitors. We had guys and girls from all over the world come see us, and it was really a fun time to be part of this operation. Next, please. And we do have to remember that construction exists in a context. Next. And push 3 times, please. And then for when you're having a platform, it's very important that you're staying at par with your pricing towards your position in the market. So next, please. If you're doing normal construction, your target cost is probably very close to the market price, and your margin is kind of given, tailored by the fact that you're looking at what the market price can be, and then you try to get a margin that will cover your cost. Next one. Now, if you operate a platform, that curve has a clear optimum. There is an optimum where you will have a really high margin, but there is also spaces on that curve when you move away from standardization or towards too much flexibility, where you lose your margin. But this is one of the safest ways to have an industrialized construction company die on you. So we had a little bit of a flexible platform, and that meant that our optimum was wider, and it kept us alive for at least enough to survive. Next, please. And this ecosystem that we have in Sweden is really world-class when it comes to machine suppliers, software development, engineering, and product development. I have a lot of people here who knows what this is, and I have capitalized on that when I then transitioned. Next, please. To Volumetric Building Companies, which is, to no one's surprise, another vertically integrated operation with sales, design, and factory and construction that also produces multi-family used modular techniques. And we have a factory in Berwick, Pennsylvania, and we have another one in Tracy. So next, please. And the factory in Tracy is the one that has most automation. And what we did was actually to used the knowledge we had then and brought in Swedish and Finnish machine suppliers. And for those of you who's been in the business, might know of Catera. We restructured their California plant in 1 year, under a period of 1 year, and is now outputting modules for it. Next, please. And this is what it looked when I walked into the floor. And next, this is what it looks now. So, next, please. So then the flow is we make floors, walls, and ceilings along the green arrows, assemble on the modular line, and then all the yellow arrows are to signify the material flow. And as you can see from the size, the factory is almost half and half product line, and the rest is material and material handling, which is the way I believe such a factory should be set up. Next, please. And of course, we feed this with digital information. So we use combination of Revit and Vertex to create our information. And I appreciate the former speaker talking about scripting, because that's something that we need to do as well. We operate with the full 3D coordination between the different models, and we are able to provide digital drawings to the shop floor without a step in between where we print it. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening. These are my kids, the elder ones, and my granddaughter, the little cute one on the right there. So thank you for listening.